Welcome back to another episode of the Nourishing Women podcast, your go-to podcast to get your period back and get pregnant. I'm your host, Victoria Myers, period recovery specialist, fertility dietitian, and owner of the virtual coaching practice, Nourishing Minds Nutrition, soon to be Nourish Fertility, where we work together to restore your fertility. Now, today, this episode will be short and sweet and to the point, but I wanted to record this because I'm just having the same conversations over and over again with both potential clients and clients that we've already signed on, and I just need you to hear this message from me today. And it's what and why other functional providers are getting wrong about treating infertility from period loss in irregular cycles. Now, this episode is inspired because last week I signed on a new client that I cannot stop thinking about because she came to us having worked with another functional provider, invested thousands of dollars into this, and the provider's only solution for their missing periods was to put her on herbs, to tell her to try acupuncture, and just admit that she's a more challenging case and feeling dumbfounded that she didn't really know what to do or how to help her because the usual way that she helps people wasn't working for this specific case. And I'm hearing her share this story and we're talking about how we're going to help her. And I'm just immediately thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that this isn't talked about more. And I obviously need to do a better job of talking about this myself because I feel obviously so passionate about this because I know exactly what we need to do to help her get her period back so that she can get pregnant. And in fact, I was just reviewing her lab work. We know exactly now why she has a missing period and why she hasn't been able to get pregnant yet. And now we're just waiting for her HTMA, her hair tissue mineral analysis results to come in. This is a lab that analyzes minerals stored in the hair. Unlike blood work, it just gives us a longer term picture of stress patterns, metabolic health, and how well the body is actually using nutrients. We're just waiting on that to officially get to work on her case. But again, in her story, I thought, gosh, I hear this so much these days. And we need to talk about why it's important to work with someone who not only takes a functional approach, because we obviously do in our practice, but who understands deeply the work of period recovery. And even within that, why understanding and having expertise in disordered eating recovery and body image healing is imperative too. It actually makes me think of my client, Amy. Amy has had some incredible success. So I want to tell you a little bit more about what's going on or what went on in her case that led to the success she's now having. So she came to us after, I believe, 5 years of no period. She, like this new client that I recently signed on, had already been working with a functional provider. She had, again, invested time and money and so much hope into getting answers. And she was told what so many women with missing periods are told, that don't get the right support. She was actually told that because she had copper toxicity, that meant she automatically had estrogen dominance without actually doing the lab work that would prove that to be true. Now, copper toxicity is a real thing. Again, we obviously do hair tissue mineral analyses with our clients. We care about mineral stores, and we can't just assume estrogen dominance with just this idea of copper toxicity. So she was told because she had this and that meant she had estrogen dominance that she needed to be low carb and that a list of supplements would fix her hormones. But the problem, and one of the many things that I think just gets messed up or gets wrong in this picture of the functional care approach, is that no one did a detailed deep dive into her past eating and exercise behaviors, and specifically in her case, really a really long history of disordered eating, where for us, we obviously order lots of lab work and we're doing a lot of investigation, but part of that root cause investigation is in our first session. All of our clients will tell you this, we spend the entire first session doing a deep dive into history, not only of past birth control and period loss, but specifically what your relationship with food and exercise has looked like throughout the years that has led then to the period loss, the irregular cycles, the infertility. I want to know every single nitty-gritty detail because it's important to understand the damage that's been done to the body. And I don't say that to scare you or to alarm you, but to empower you that when we understand the depths of what's happened to our bodies, we can then know how to fix it and correct it. In Amy's case, what was specific to her and what we see so often with our clients is that was never done. She was just again told, you've got estrogen dominance, you should go low carb, these supplements will fix this. But the problem that no one ever figured out because they didn't ask the right questions was she was already obsessively eating clean, had a long history with disordered eating. She was exercising constantly, could not sit or allow her body to relax. And she was already doing everything she thought a healthy woman was supposed to do. She was that healthiest person. She's a nurse, right? She was known as being the healthiest person. Most people do when they get this advice from a functional provider. They're okay, I'm all in. I'm going to try this out. But what happened in her case, which I see so often, just like this new client I signed on, was that instead of getting better, she got worse and worse. And it made the period loss actually get worse and worse to the point where malnutrition got significantly bad. So when Amy came on and signed with us, we started working together and we just approached her case completely different through not just a generic hormone imbalance lens, but through a period recovery lens. And what we found completely changed the direction of her care because she did not have high estrogen. She actually had extremely low estrogen, less than 30. If you guys have watched her training, we talk a lot about how this is beyond just your ovary and your brain miscommunication. If you think of your body as a table with 4 legs, your brain, your ovaries, your adrenal, and your thyroid glands are all interconnected and affected by each other, which is why we want to understand more than just what's going on with your hormones and your brain ovary miscommunication. I want to know what's going on with your thyroid, and hers was so messed up, needed so much support. Even more, again, when we did this deep dive and we looked into things like her food journal reviews and how she was currently eating and exercising and her deep dive into her history, while there was truth that she was eating more than ever before, her intake was still far below what she actually needed for her body to feel safe enough. You've been told you need to gain weight, stop exercising, or do IVF to get pregnant with no period. What if I told you that's not actually true? You're tracking your food, working out, trying everything to be healthy, but your period is still missing. And now, pregnancy, it feels impossible. I know exactly how that feels because I've helped hundreds of women get their period back and get pregnant naturally. Inside my free training, I'm walking you through the exact 5-step method that's helped women like Lex, Lauren, and Stephanie restore their fertility in 90 days or less without extreme weight gain or giving up on movement. You'll learn what's really causing your missing period, why food freedom is essential for fertility, and the customized approach that actually works, even if you've tried everything. If your dream is to see 2 pink lines and hold a baby in your arms, this training, it's your first step. Click the link in the show notes to watch the free training. It's time to restore your period, your fertility, and your hope. Now let's get back to today's episode. And this is just where a lot of functional care misses the mark for women with period loss or irregular periods caused from their chronic dieting and over-exercising, which really what that actually means is that their body's in a state of nervous system disrepair and that their metabolic health has been damaged. I find what happens with functional care is that these providers are just only trained to look for excess or too much estrogen or too much inflammation or too many bad foods, but they just don't understand that for these women with period loss that are active is actually a condition of depletion, not of excess. It's a nervous and metabolic issue, and it happens when the body doesn't feel safe, and that just can't be fixed by over supplementing or restricting your way out of that. And again, looking beneath the surface of what's causing the period loss, if we even look further deeper than that, the true root cause of this is an unhealthy relationship with food and exercise. And it was so important in Amy's case, and what we see with all these clients that have previously seen functional providers, is that they need both. They need that functional strategic care, but they also need the disordered eating recovery, the body image healing coupled with that. So in Amy's case, we built her a custom fertility recovery protocol, focused on all these things: nourishment, metabolic repair, thyroid support, and strategic changes to her training. Exactly 2 months later, after receiving her custom protocol, she got her first recovery period. And then around 2 weeks later, right around, I think 19 days actually, she ovulated after years, again, 5 years of absolutely nothing. Now we are continuing to work together so that she can move towards the positive pregnancy test she's been dreaming of. And I'm just sharing this because I know you and I know you feel you're doing everything right. So we have to think that, okay, even if we're the healthiest person I know and I'm doing everything right and I'm following the protocol from the functional provider, maybe that this actually wasn't designed for me and I need true expert care in this specific arena of period loss causing my infertility, because those generic functional nutrition, hormone-focused practices often just don't understand the person who's like high achieving and underfueled and overtraining. And that distinction, it just matters. Working with a provider who understands the physiology of peer recovery, it can completely change your outcome. And actually makes me think of a client similar to Amy Marta, who I'm also in the midst of. We're about to wrap up our time together. Actually, she's at the very end of her 3-month program. She'd worked with so many functional providers, so many doctors, fertility specialists. She actually did IVF to get pregnant with her first baby. And while those other providers and doctors were really helpful, yes, for addressing, she has many autoimmune disorders, what they never did was address her missing period and her crazy low estrogen. Her estrogen, I believe, was 17. It was very low. I might have that number wrong, but it was very low. And in her case, what she needed again was this very custom specific support meant for someone who has period loss. She got her first recovery period at the 8-week mark exactly too after receiving her custom fertility recovery protocol. She then went on to ovulate and have her second recovery period a month later. And this is, y'all, after years of no period and no help. Now, obviously, I'm still in the middle of working with these clients, so we're still working towards pregnancy. If you've heard me say on the training before, we expect the first recovery period back in 90 days or less, so around that 3-month mark. And then after that, you can expect pregnancy within 1 to 6 months after getting your period back. So still in the midst of working with these clients, but I think their cases perfectly illustrate that it's not that they need to do all these detoxes or these protocols that just simply aren't meant for someone like them, this high achieving active woman who just needs to focus on first getting her period back. Maybe those avenues would help in time, but it's not what they need right now. Finally, all of these stories make me think of one of my favorite cases that I've ever worked with, Lauren. Lauren was on an emotional roller coaster working with, again, so many doctors, so many functional providers. I will never forget her telling me that a functional provider, a naturopath, actually told her that she might have PCOS, even though it was hypothalamic amenorrhea, and that she should do HIIT exercises and go low carb to fix her fertility. There could not be worse advice to give to someone who has period loss from hypothalamic amenorrhea. She is now a mama, and that is because she did the work in our program to get her period back and restore her fertility. I want you to know at the end of this episode, it's not that functional medicine approach is wrong, or that naturopaths or functional medicine doctors or functional dietitians or acupuncturists, it's not that approach, that root cause care approach is wrong. Obviously, we talk about root cause all the time, and we are a functional nutrition practice ourselves. But in the case of period recovery, we have to take the advanced functional lab testing, the custom protocols, the hair tissue mineral analyses, the specific supplement protocols, which is everything that we do in our Premier program. But we have to do that so with disordered eating recovery, body image healing, and really looking at why we have gone to the point of losing our periods or having irregular periods in the first place. Like, that has to go hand in hand to get the true outcomes of getting your period back and getting and staying pregnant that you are looking for. So if you're working with a functional provider right here, right now, and they're telling you, is inflammation, you need to do a detox, I want you just to consider at the end of this episode that we could come back to those things if we need to, but right now, what's most important for you is first having the foundation of getting your period back. And in most cases, this is true with our clients, that is actually what resolves their infertility in the first place. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Remember, if you want a plan that actually fits your body and your goals, that is meant for someone just like you, an active woman with period loss, I want you to apply to Premier Period Recovery for Fertility. We have just a handful of spots left for March, and I would love for one of them to be yours if you resonated with this episode. We'll be back for another episode next week. Remember, we're testing out an episode a week right now to see how it goes. So until then, know that a nourished body is a powerful one.